So thank you for inviting me to be here. And also it's nice to meet all my friends, old and new. And of course, it's always glad to talk about Pakistan, Central Asia, and their relationship with China. And I'm glad today our topic is really focused on Pakistan's eco, geo-economic positioning. We're not really talking about geopolitics, we talk about geoeconomics. And of course, we always talk about Belt and Road Initiative as the example of China, Central Asia, China, South Asian, China, even Middle Eastern cooperation as a way to develop an economy, to develop an industry, and of course, to improve living standard of many countries and regions. And of course, we just heard Mr. Hassan Dawood and Mr. Bennington to talk about world politics, world economy, and of course, the importance of Belt and Road Initiative in developing economy in Central Eurasia, in South Asia, and even beyond. And today, actually, I want to talk about the specific geo-economic position of Pakistan in Himalaya and also Hindu Kush mountain range. Basically, I'm not really talking about grand strategy or a global economy. I'm really talking about regional and also from the perspective of local development, especially Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, and even some other small neighbor countries in South Central Asia, or Central Asia and South Asia. And of course, if we look at the map of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and China, this is really wide range surrounded by mountain ranges, especially by Himalaya mountains and Hindu Kush mountains. And of course, one of the resources we always talk about is mineral resources. If you guys look at the map of Afghanistan, and also if we look at the map of Pakistan, the distribution of mineral resources actually really located in all these mountain ranges, especially Himalaya mountain in the north and Hindu Kush mountain in northwest. And of course, you can imagine for Afghanistan, we always talk about peace, we always talk about development. But of course, no countries, no companies seriously can invest in Afghanistan or northern Pakistan. And one of the reasons, of course, is of the security concern and also borderland issues. But actually, the bigger challenge I can say is the communication, a connectivity, a transportation. So basically, I'm arguing that if we want to develop specific regions and provinces bordering Afghanistan, Pakistan, and China, we really should focus on developing mineral resources. And of course, if we look at Afghanistan and Pakistan, all these mineral resources really distribute in two major areas. Now, one is basically in northeast, from Afghanistan, China, Tajikistan, even Pakistan borderland, centered on Badakhshan. So that's why if you look at Amadaya River, basically from Badakhshan all the way to northwest, you have really huge mineral resources that really awaiting to be developed. But again, as far as I know, only one company from the US, JP Morgan, invested limited capital in Badakhshan to develop a specific mine. But other companies, of course, they really want to develop, but it's really difficult. As I said, one of the challenges is the transportation. And also, if you look at southwest, both in Afghanistan and Pakistan, we also find rich mineral resources, especially in Afghanistan. If you think about Ghazni provinces and all these, borderland provinces close to Pakistan, we really find really world-class mineral resources. But again, due to the limited access to outside the world, it's really difficult for international companies to invest, especially in all these borderland regions of provinces, both in Afghanistan and also northwest Pakistan. I'm not really talking about coastal regions, I'm really talking about interior regions. So that's why here I'm basically say, if we really help the local populations, either in Afghanistan and Pakistan, to benefit from this huge Belt and Road Initiative, we cannot simply say, you build highways, you build railways, because railways and highways, you really cannot reach local regions. You cannot really reach to local populations. But mineral resources, in terms of employment, in terms of private cooperation, that can really benefit local populations. And actually, I led 2 delegations visited Afghanistan 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago. We negotiated with Afghan government. We really look at the 2 major mines. One is in Ghazni province, the other one in Badakhshan and also Takhar province. But of course, as we mentioned in Afghanistan, we always concerned about security issue. But also the pragmatic challenge is the transportation. In northern Afghanistan, of course, you have to go all the way from China, Tajikistan, all the way to Uzbekistan, then from Mazar Sharif back to Takhar and even Badakhshan. This is really economically not really practical. So that's why some investors from China, they are basically private investors, not like a government, investors backed by state. So that's why they basically argued, how can we really transport all these machineries from China to Badakhshan, from China to Ghazni? Because if you have no state backing, it's really hard, right? So that's what they basically said, well, if there's a possible cooperation between China, Afghanistan, and Pakistan in their borderland, that is really easy. If you look at Badakhshan, basic Afghanistan, China, Pakistan, if you have some kind of, borderland economic zone, that can really develop the whole mineral mines in Badakhshan alone, which actually share not only by China, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, also connected Pakistan. So this is the northern route, I would call. That was basically a huge potential to benefit all these regions and the peoples. And of course, we also know all these remote areas and the mountain areas or mountain ranges could be potential harbor for future terrorists. So that's without developing economy, it's really hard to imagine how peace can be achieved, especially in all these remote areas. And of course, we also say in Pakistan, Balochistan, you also have this problem, poverty-driven terrorism, right? It's not really about ideology. For most peoples, as we say, in Afghanistan, in Balochistan, even the Badakhshan regions, many of the people, they basically participate in all these terrorist acts or groups simply because they want to make a living. This is not really about global jihadism or about really, not about religious extremism. Of course, governments tend to frame their activities in all these, terms. But if you go to other regions, local villages, local provinces, you really see the biggest challenge is really the economy, living, standard. So that's why if you look at Pakistan as well, as I said, the mineral resources distributed basically from northeast to southwest. And of course, for southwest, it's easy to access to maritime transportation, either through, Qatar or through Karachi. But for northeast, for example, the regions close to Afghanistan, especially close to Badakhshan, other regions, of course, with rich mineral resources, but it's really hard to develop, especially, as I said, you have no railways or highways connect to other regions, and no private investor will come. So that's why when we talk about geo-economic positioning of Pakistan, I'm not really thinking, of course, government already built all these highways, railways, ports, right? But now the next step, of course, I think is really to build connectivity with local regions, mountain regions, to develop the resources they have. Otherwise, you cannot expect some borderland populations can benefit from Gwadar port or benefit from, Kashgar, Gwadar railway. So that's why when you look at all these regions from northern Afghanistan to northern Pakistan, I see the great potential to develop economies through exploring all these mineral mines. Again, if we look at some typical mines, you know, the Afghanistan, Badakhshan, represented by Place the Gold, then to Ghazni province and other, you know, provinces connecting Pakistan, and also northern Pakistan, northeast Pakistan. If we build some kind of economical, not really freedom, but basically provide access to local peoples in terms of transportation, in terms of, you know, market, in terms of machinery, in terms of personnel. So I would think all these borderland areas or interior regions or even mountain areas, there's a huge potential. Remember, in the past 2 years, when I led the delegation from China, they really, you know, promised to invest $2 billion just in 2 mines in Badakhshan regions and also in Ghazni province close to Pakistan, actually even further to the east. But the real challenge, again, as I said, there's no access to transport machinery. If you transport from Uzbekistan or this, you know, Central Asian country, first of all, it's really too far. Second of all, it's not really safe enough. But Pakistan, in this sense, actually can provide access to many provinces, regions, even villages in borderland regions, not only with Afghanistan, but also with China. And of course, as we know recently, there was an accident occurred actually between Afghanistan and Pakistan. I forgot the name of the borderland checkpoint. It's Tokhat. You can imagine how Afghan people really want to, you know, have access to market, to transportation, right? But if Pakistan and China, Afghanistan can open some kind of borderland access, a borderland market in northern Afghanistan, northern Pakistan, all these regions can be connected, especially through developing mineral mines. So this is my field research and some personal observation about connectivities, about Pakistan's geo-economic positioning. And really local peoples, not only from Pakistan, not only from Afghanistan, even from China, they really hope to have some kind of connectivity in all these 3 countries' borderland to develop their economy. Without benefiting local people, without developing their economy, I really cannot see how peace can be completely achieved at every level, from village to county to province, because we cannot simply talk about national relations or international relations. We really have to look at how local people, how private partners, they can benefit, not really look at the state company, not really look at, you know, international company. So this is the thought I have about Pakistan's geo-economic position, especially in borderland between China, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Thank you.